G'day everybody, Andy Maher here. Welcome back to The Blueprint for 2014, proudly brought to you by our good friends at Hyundai. Joining me for part one of our season preview is former champion skipper Mark Maclure and media personality, a man of many, many talents, and a passionate blues man, Sam Pang. Welcome, gentlemen. Lovely to be here and lovely to see you two fine specimens alongside me.
Andy and Sam, good to see you.
Great to be here.
It's
Are
lovely.
you a blues supporter?
Can I call you Sellers?
Oh,
Yes,
everyone else does, except my mum.
Sellers, I'm a passionate Carlton
You need
man.
to need to put your CV on the line a little bit here, though. You did represent the arch enemy in the field of battle. You wore the black and white stripes, did you not? In serious games of football.
All right, I'll get it all out in the
Come on,
table.
put it so everybody's on the same page.
I played four. I'm very uncomfortable doing this in front of a great like Mark, by the way, who's played over. I don't know if you knew this. Played over 50 games for Carlton.
Come on.
14 games for Collingwood in the under-19s.
Right.
As a permanent forward, kicked one goal. So
How did your last 14 games then?
I was a great trainer, and so that was
That
it.
is
I
a
can't
joke,
believe
isn't
it.
it?
Did you try and get over? Did you try and get to the Blues at any stage in your under-19 career?
No, but I'd say the link there is that for the first, in the old days, before they actually handed out training jumpers, you still got to wear your old jumper, any jumper you wanted. So I went down with Jono's number 7, Carlton, and I did my first lap of Vic Park and didn't finish before Max Richardson at the time pulled me over and said, "Take that off, son." Didn't finish a lap in that jumper, so Jono was popular everywhere.
Well, you'd expect nothing less, I don't think, from the arch enemy. Boys, there's a lot to talk about. Let's start right at the top. The leadership group that's been installed for 2014, the men in charge on and off the field to take this team where we want it to go. There's been a couple of changes. Jamison and Gibbs are the inclusions into the leadership group this year. Do you like the balance of it, Sellers?
Oh, look, I think they're reasonable players. I have some problems with they're a very introverted group when you think about the Carlton group, and they need some more. I don't know what you'd call them, but some people who have a bit of flair.
There's a few names you can throw.
Yeah, I could throw a couple up. And I think when you think about, excuse me, I'm terribly sorry, Daisy Thomas, he's come in with a little bit of flair. He's a little bit of a rat bag, and we like that.
Yeah.
I like that style, but we don't see too many in there. You need a balance of all types in your leadership group, and one of our big flaws is that we have an introverted group.
It's hard to put it in if it's not naturally there, though, isn't it?
Well, that's a good point. My question also, is it big enough?
How many do you need?
There's only 7 Sellers. That seems like a cutback from recent years.
Because you're not in the leadership group, does it mean you don't lead? I don't think so. I think that you can be an 18-year-old kid and be the best tackler in the team. You can be the best trainer, and that's a leading in a sense. So leadership groups sometimes are overrated, overnumbered, and too much time spent on them. I think that's about what you do, each and every one of you.
I've got no doubt Mark Murphy will have grown into the position as captain, and he'll have just be a bit more comfortable with whatever that role entails. I think we'll see a different Mark Murphy now that he's got that year behind him, and certainly a year of a pre-season where he's been able to get through physically okay. I think we might see a different man leading the footy team this year. We've obviously, if we're going to be better than we were last year, we need to have players improve. That goes across the board. We want several players to lift, but have you identified any key players, any individual players who need to take their footy to the next level if the team's going to be better?
One of the things that I identify with our club is, I mean, the 2 magnificent wins we had at the end of the year, one against Port, and then beating Richmond at the MCG in front of 95 or something, was an enormous couple of days' work, and I thought they were worn out after that, and they were sort of beaten, but the teamwork involved, it's still not up to where you want to be a really good side. There's still a lot of individual work that has to be done. Judd has to lift and carry. I mean, you can't have that all the time. So there's some work in just doing teamwork, just sort of covering for you. So, Sam, you're there, I'm covering for you. I don't have to get a kick, but gee whiz, you get one easy. And that's what they don't do enough of. And I think when they get to that stage, they'll be a good side.
I've got no doubt under Mick Moldhouse, there'll be another year of pre-season under him as well. They'll be able to work their way through. They'll be a more cohesive unit than they were at times last year. Troy Menzel's a really interesting player. I think we're all excited about the natural talents of this young fella. He's had a second pre-season now. Is it too early to expect him to be a serious player at AFL level? Do we need to give him another year at least before he's going to become an impact player?
He's slight of build. He's got some pace. He's got a few tricks. That's the best part about him. He's got plenty of tricks. I mean, I like the way he's tackled there. But to me, he's very highly skilled. And if he can stand on his feet for long enough, he'll be a very, very handy player for this footy club.
I think anything short of a Brownlow would probably be a disappointing season for. Is that?
Well, as an elite small forward yourself, small forward yourself, he will be given opportunities that were probably going to be presented to Eddie Betts, who's now no longer at the club. Obviously, there's a spot that's opened up. It's going to be a different looking small to mid-sized forward line that we put out this year, and I think there's going to be opportunities presented to Menzel that might not otherwise have been there.
Where do Betts' 40 goals come from this year, Sellers?
Oh, look, it's not about what Betts' 40 goal. Eddie's gone. You've got to worry about what you've got in the bank. And Menzel could do 40 goals. That's 2 a game. It's quite simple. But if you got 35 and Gala got more of an opportunity, which you would think that would happen, and you get more, we need more goals from our midfield. That's the key.
Well, maybe
midfield kicking goals.
Maybe one of those guys is Tom Bell. Of course, we enjoy the way he goes about it. He's robust, he's fit, he's athletic. We all know that. Everybody can see the potential in the fella who sort of came to footy late, came down an unusual pathway out of Queensland. So he was probably behind a lot of the guys that he was competing for positions against.
So can you teach peripheral vision?
No, it's impossible to do that.
Okay.
You've got to open their eyes up further like that, you know.
Right.
But no, you can't do that. But one of the things you've got to do with Bell is what I like about him is raw and he's hard and he's a big body in the midfield, and we've lacked that. Our midfield's always been reasonably small, and we need taller players. And Cripps is going to be another one that's going to go to that area, and we need him to be able to stand up. He's a couple of years away, but Bell, I reckon, is starting to get. Everyone has a role to play. You don't expect Bell to be the best player on the ground, but you expect him to clear some way for other people, and that's what I like about him.
I'm looking forward to Sam Pang. I don't know whether he has already caught up with Jimmy Buckley in your Driving with Sam Pang, the Hyundai engine.
No, Jimmy hasn't got a licence yet.
That's all you might have to drive for it. Have you caught up with Jimmy yet?
No, I haven't. I've caught up with Alex Maclure, the great man here, Wayne Johnson, Harry Madden, and I think we're going to see Ange Christou and Koutafidis later on. But yeah, there was some concern with the older players as to whether they still had their licence. So it was just great. It was refreshing.
It might not have stopped them driving just quietly, but his son Dylan. You talk about big, powerful midfielders, and I think maybe one of the question marks on Dylan was whether he was going to be big enough, physically just big enough, to cut it in this part of the ground at AFL level.
That looks good, doesn't it?
Through the NAB Challenge, didn't he show some stuff that from a desperation and speed and
pace?
Yeah, didn't he? He just looked like he might be ready to take that next step.
I think they placed him in a good spot. Halfback flank's a good place to learn. You don't have to be a tall player because most people get kicks on the outside running and using the ball. Sometimes you can play him as a loose down there. His pace is dynamic, but has he got the confidence to actually run through the lines? And sometimes people get a bit scared of that. He has. He's going to be all right. He'll be fine. He'll play his games and he'll develop. You'll see him probably play 6 or 7 or 8 games this year, I reckon, and he'll develop into a pretty good player. Used it sparingly at times for his pace.
Anything about his dad that reminds you of him?
Well, he does. Look, he looks a lot like him. Jimmy was he was a bit taller, slightly taller in the times, but and he was real quick. He was strong and he was very good in the aftermatch, Jimmy.
Yeah, no, we've heard stories about that. There's no question about that. It's a story for another day, I think. We haven't seen Sam Doherty yet, the traded players that were acquired by the footy club. We'll get to those in a minute. But we have seen a bit of Paddy Cripps, who was the #1 pick in the national draft. And we're talking about guys like Mark Murphy and young Dylan Buckley. This guy is the prototypical modern midfielder, isn't he? 6'2", 6'3", and just a powerhouse.
That's exactly what we require. Don't expect him to be perfect in his first year. He's a young man. He's tall. He looks reasonably physical, but the strength of trying to get through a whole year is incredible. That's why I really admire that Ollie Wines. Ollie Wines got through a whole year, his first year, and he's a monster, you know. So this kid, if he gets through somewhere near that, he's done a great job. But he's exactly what we want for a year or so's time.
There's some question marks about Dale Thomas's capacities through the pre-season to get himself ready for the start of 2014. I think we saw enough in the NAB Challenge, despite that little hiccup early where he had that chest infection, to suggest that that was just classic Dale Thomas, wasn't it? Taken on 2 and cat-like when he hit the ground.
Oh, he's a class player.
We saw enough, didn't we?
No, he's a class player, and you don't lose class, you don't lose ability. He just lost a bit of fitness through injury, and that's his problem. He looks like he's going well. He's keen. I've run into him. He's very, very keen. And there's one of the great love affairs here going on. I mean, on Eddie Maguire and Nathan Buckley is one of the greats, but, you know, I mean, Malthouse on Daisy. Gee whiz, it could go down. It's up there with Romeo and Juliet, isn't it?
Well, it's good. I mean, he wanted to come to the club because of that. And if the coach is the guy that gets the best out of him, and we saw him, you know, in 2010, 2011 play, you know, sort of footy that Ross Lyon, whether he was absolutely genuine or not, said was as good as the football being played by anybody in the competition individually.
And he's extroverted, which I like.
That's important.
He's Scotland, Collingwood to Carlton. Daisy Thomas, Collingwood to Carlton. David Butterfin is now at Carlton. Mick Malthouse, Collingwood to Carlton.
Sam Pang.
Is Eddie Maguire
Sam Pang, Collingwood to Carlton.
Is Eddie Maguire the next president of Carlton?
We don't want him.
Well, we're looking for one at the end of the year, aren't we? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right.
I think we are. The big fellas.
Any chance?
He'll have to bring Nathan with him.
No, what about you as a president?
Would you get him over?
I don't. No. I don't want Eddie over. If Eddie,
No,
seriously,
we
mate.
don't need that.
What do we need him for?
We don't need him. No, I don't think anybody's seriously...
He won't drive a Hyundai.
Andy, I did my research for this. When are we going to talk about Steve DeRuy and Frank Marcazzani?
We'll get there. Well, no, we'll get to that.
Okay, cool.
The other new face, the other familiar faces that come into the footy club, as I said, we haven't seen any of Sam Doherty yet, but Andrejs Everitt's the other one. Now, he lit it up against North Melbourne. I think Carlton supporters got particularly excited about that. He struggled a little more against Adelaide when they were a bit too strong for us.
Yeah.
Lit it up, Sellers. Did you hear that?
I saw him get 3 goals on the back of everything, which is okay. That's part of it, and that's fine. But I tell you what he has done. He played 28 games last year at Sydney. He's played at Footscray as well. He's had a pretty good rounding of playing forward and back, and he's going to be handy.
He's going to be useful, isn't he? He's going to be useful.
But don't expect him to be a massive goal kicker or a star with his football club. He's a very good doer. He's got good pace. He's 6'4" or 5", 195 centimetres. They're hard to find. So when we're lacking down back, he can play there. When they're lacking up forward a bit, he can play there. So he'll be a good swing player. He'll be handy, I tell you.
He'd be a better player if he had his brothers. When Peter went through the dreadlock phase with the headband. I think
That was brutal.
we might have a cult figure on our hands if Andrejs went through that phase at some stage.
He's a different style of guy.
Yeah, he is.
I think he'd be fine.
I think he'd be good. Now, Sam, we talked to you ever so briefly about driving with Sam Pang, the Hyundai engine room. You've done 10 episodes, 5 with past players, 5 with current day players. Going to go to air this Wednesday.
Tomorrow is the first one.
Exactly right. Exactly right. As I said through the website.
Yeah, so the idea is that I catch up with some current and some past greats. Mark Maclure is one of them. It was a magnificent half-hour, Sellers. Probably the highlight of...
Did you think that?
Your hour, at least. I had a great time. So basically,
Really?
the idea, Andy, is that they drive me around and we just chat for half an hour.
I think it's magnificent. How much of it goes to air? Does it go in its half hour?
There's going to be a couple of minutes on the big screen on match day and then the rest of the interview on the website or at the Carlton website. But, you know, it was just great. Mark Maclure driving me around for, you know, and
Had
we
a little
didn't get
bit
in a
of trouble
crash.
with
exactly.
the gearing of the car.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with the car.
Cars are
just
magnificent.
me.
No, they're superb cars.
Just me.
Absolutely
Sellers did
magnificent.
struggle with the fact it was an automatic.
You took one of the drives you've already taken is with the brothers, the twins, the Kudafudis and Christou twins, and let's have a little look at how that played out.
For me, the most inspirational movie is always Rocky. You know, so every one I loved, and as a family, I think we went to watch Rocky 3, and I can still recall that movie.
Comedy.
So Rocky.
Did you think Did you think that Clubber Lang? I never thought that he was going to get over Clubber Lang. Did you? I mean, there was real concern there.
Right.
What about this one? Does he remind you of Drago?
Ivan Drago, I must break
Drago
you.
was number 4.
Yeah, but does he remind you of Drago?
Back in my day, I used to have the flat top with a bit of a mullet.
And the GT stripes?
Yeah, do you remember them? Oh, no, they were bad.
Was that,
Big Bad Mario.
Was that even Drago inspired? Good.
Yeah, back in the day, he was the man. Oh, mate, in Rocky 4, what a physique.
I love it. I absolutely love it. More of that. On the website
comedy
tomorrow.
gold. It's going to be great. It's a very revealing little chat. Like with Mark, we spoke for half an hour and 20 minutes just on old nightclubs. It was great.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to. You'll see that all tomorrow. Sam, delightful to have you on the program.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go on.
Was that Peter Bell in the back seat?
No, it wasn't Peter Bell in the back seat. Lovely to see. Hopefully we'll see
He looks like him, I tell you.
It's a common mistake, although I am a lot shorter.
That is all we have.
He played 300
Well,
games
Sam's Chinese. Everyone can tell the difference. Sam's Chinese, Peter Bell's Korean. Everybody can tell
Do you
the
know
difference.
this, fellas? Do you know that one of the first Chinese players ever to play AFL was a Carlton player called Wally Koo Chu, and he played 4 games or 8 games in 1908.
Okay. Oh, it's nice.
There you go, just thought I'd finish with that. There you go.
Just a little gem to finish the show with. That's all we have time for on today's show. Stay tuned for episode 2 of our season preview coming up on Thursday, where we'll discuss free agency and how it will affect the Blues. We'll also preview our round 1 clash with the Power. Thanks for watching. Go Blues.